Okay, class, in this lesson, we're going to learn to factor a polynomial, except this time we're going to look at quadratic trinomials where the leading coefficient is not equal to 1. So let's go ahead and get started with the first example. Okay, here we have 10x squared plus 3x minus 1. And this is what I mean when a is not equal to 1. This leading coefficient is a 10. Okay, so we need a different technique to do this. And the first method to solve for this polynomial is using a technique called grouping. And here's how it works. So the first step is to multiply this leading coefficient, 10, by the last term, which is negative 1. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and just draw that. We're going to multiply these together and get 10 times negative 1, and that is equal to negative 10. Okay, so now we're going to use this as the basis for finding the right set of factors that will make this work. So in other words, we're going to look at factors of negative 10 such that when we add them together, they equal 3, which is the middle term of this trinomial. Okay, so we can go ahead and start identifying potential factors of negative 10. Okay, so we will have negative 10 and 1. We will also have positive 10 and 1. And then there's also negative 5 and 2. And then we will also have 5 and negative 2. Okay, so I believe that's all of the possible factors of negative 10. And now what we're going to do is add them together and see which one gives us the positive 3 in this middle term that we're looking for. Okay, so for the first one, we have negative 10 plus 1, that's negative 9. Okay, so that's not it. For the second, we have 10 plus 1, and that's 11. So that's not it. For the third pair, we have negative 5 plus 2. That gives us negative 3, and that's not it. And the last one is 5 plus negative 2, and that gives us 3. And that is exactly what we're looking for. Okay. The next step is to rewrite this polynomial as 10x squared plus, now instead of writing 3x, we're going to replace that with 5x plus, or in this case negative, or minus 2x minus 1. Okay, so you notice that this 5 came from this factor, and this negative 2 came from this factor. And if you were to subtract these, 5x minus 2x, we would get this middle term. Okay, so basically what we're doing is we are rewriting this middle term using these factors to make it look like this. Okay, so then the next step is to group them together. So we're going to group the first two terms, 10x squared plus 5x. We're going to put those in parentheses, and that's going to subtract the next group, which is going to be 2x. Okay, now watch the sign here. Because we have a negative sign on the outside here, okay, we have to maintain the integrity of this value, and so that's going to be plus 1. Okay, so the next thing to do is to find the greatest common factor of this first set, and we find that the greatest common factor is 5x. Okay, and when we factor that out, what we have left is 2x plus 1. Okay, and then for the second term, we're going to go ahead and rewrite this, or I'm sorry, not rewrite it, but just write it as 2x plus 1. But we also need to recognize that there is an implied coefficient here, and that implied coefficient is 1. So now that we know that 5x is multiplied by 2x plus 1, as well as 1 is multiplied by 2x plus 1, we can rewrite this as follows. This is now 5x minus 1 times the quantity 2x plus 1. And that is our answer for 10x squared plus 3x minus 1. So that is one method to factor a quadratic trinomial. Okay. Now there's a second way, and let's go ahead and take a look at the next example. And this is called factoring by substitution. And here's how this works. We're going to put brackets around this entire polynomial, and we're going to multiply it by the leading coefficient. In this case, it's going to be 6. Okay. Now we're going to multiply this out, but we're not going to actually do the computation. So in other words, 6 times 6x squared is really just 6 times 6x squared plus 6 times 11x for the next term, 6 times 11x, and then the last one will be 6 times 4, and we can go ahead and multiply that out, and we get 24. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is rewrite this term, and I'm going to go ahead and just break it all down to its smallest parts before we rewrite it, and it's going to look like 6 times 6 times x times x, and then for the next term we're going to switch the 6 and 11 around, and that's going to be plus 11 times 6x, and then the rest is plus 24. Okay, so now the first term, we have 6 times 6 times x. That is really the same as 6x quantity squared. Okay, think about that for a second. 6x squared is really 6 times 6, which is what we have here, times x, right? Because this is squared, and we have x times x. So we're just rewriting this so that it looks different. However, it has the same value as this. And then for the second term, it's going to be plus 11, and I'm going to just put 6x in parentheses here for a second. And that's going to end with plus 24. Okay, so now here what we're going to do is we're going to substitute 6x, which we have in parentheses, with any variable. So we'll call it r. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and rewrite this. We're going to call this r squared plus 11r plus 24. All right, so we're going to go ahead and just rewrite this without the parentheses. R squared plus 11r plus 24. Okay, now we have to figure out if this new polynomial is factorable. And to determine that, we're going to go ahead and find factors of 24. Okay, so we know that factors of 24 include 8 and 3. 8 times 3 is 24. 8 plus 3 is also equal to 11, which is what we're looking for. So we can go ahead and set up our template and insert the positive 8 in here and the positive 3 in here. Okay, it doesn't matter where it goes. You could put the positive 8 in here and the positive 3 in here as well, and it'll be the same. So we'll go ahead and put that in, plus 8 and plus 3. Now we're going to substitute back the 3x for r. And we'll go ahead and write in 3x plus 8 times 3x plus 3. I'm sorry, not the 3x. It should be 6x. Substitute back the 6x. Okay, 6x. And we can change that to 6x as well. Okay, so we're going to substitute back the 6x, not the 3x. So now we have 6x plus 8 times 6x plus 3. We can factor out a 2 for the first binomial. So we factor out a 2, and we're left with 3x plus 4. And for the second binomial, we can also factor out a 3, okay? And that leaves us with 2x plus 1. Okay, so bringing these two together, since this is all being multiplied, 2 times 3 is 6. We're going to get 6 times 3x plus 4 times 2x plus 1. Okay? Now, if you recall, at the very beginning, we said to multiply this entire polynomial by 6. Okay? Since we put that 6 in, we need to take it back out. Lo and behold, we have a 6 that we can eliminate. So we can go ahead and cross that off. And our final answer is going to be 3x plus 4 times 2x plus 1. Okay? So that is those are the factors for the polynomial 6x squared plus 11x plus 4. Okay, so those are two methods for factoring polynomials when a is not equal to 1. Hopefully this made sense to you. If any of this was not clear, please go back to the beginning of the recording and listen to this again. Thank you.